Hello everyone, this is Stephen Gibson, and here is another Grimslingers 2 update. I'm excited to show off what has changed since the last week, I guess. My allergies are really bad, so if I sneeze, my apologies. So let's take a look. Now we have some tokens. This image has changed a little bit. Let's talk about some of these things. These tokens, these aren't all the ones that will be in the game. There'll be probably around 10 different tokens and three of each. And these represent area events. Now, area events are dynamic events that pop up on the map when you first set up the game. If you look over here, there's a little. I know it looks crazy, but it's not that complicated. It's just breaking up the area into these shapes. So I'm gonna do. You do a roll, and then you do two 1d20 rolls, and that determines where the thing's going to go. So if I were to roll, let's see, a 10, so it'd be 10, and then I would roll again, and 19, so 10, 19. That means that I would put the token in that spot right here, this section of the map. So you do that for a couple of them. I probably have more on here than you may have in the final version, but it just allows it to be like, here's a thing that's happening here that's not always there, and at different intervals in the game you'll spawn more area events. Let's talk about the ones we have on here right now. The bandit skull thing is a bandit takeover. That means this area of the map has been taken over by bandits. You'll have to clear them out before you can access the regular part of that section of the map. So like Uncle Scabby's Scav Hole has been overrun by bandits, so I have to clear them out before I can access Uncle Scabby's Scav Hole. This is a traveling caravan. This is a unique treasure chest. This over here is a demonic presence. So there's a really big, powerful demon there that's taking over the area. And like this one, you can, if you have a really high infamy, you can go in there and not worry about the token unless you want to. And otherwise, you need to clear out the demon before you can access that area. And the caravans, they're sort of like, you can either interact with them or not to get rid of the token. It's up to you. Same with the treasure chest. But each one has multiple ways of going about it, which I'm going to play through some of the game right now to show kind of the variety in these encounters and just how the adventure works, because I didn't really show that last time. One thing that I've been experimenting with is, in order to ensure that the difficulty of the game scales properly with the players gaining power, is instead of having natural and magical decks that creatures draw on, now I'm just having attack deck 1, 2, 3, and then with expansions it'll go 4, 5, 6, so whatever. So that the creatures are appropriately challenging, and a way to improve, difficulty in different times. So right now, all the basic creatures use attack deck 1, and before it was like natural, magical, and yeah. So as things get harder, I can make them use harder attack decks, so that the game stays fun for you and not super easy mode. Allies are now like your anima. They give you a passive ability. I also think it helps just visually to have like a Grimslinger represented there, or whatever character it happens to be, but not all Grimslingers that are allies. Your anima, it doesn't do anything fancy. It's just a way of getting back your discarded cards. Your characters, they are different rarities, so there's common, rare, legendary, mythical characters. So this guy, your flip cards give you +1 power, so it kind of changes your playstyle up a bit. Shanti, if a foe forces you to discard a card, put it at the top of your combat deck instead, so it's easy to get that card back. Fun stuff like that. This guy makes it so you can't be cursed more than 2 times. Groovy, so let's get into playing. We're going to start at the Hanging Tree. So, who don't like a spectacle? Well, the folks in these parts sure do, and that's what the Hanging Tree is. A danged morbid one at that. A big, thick, downright sizable dead tree looms over a shallow valley, and from its gnarly armies, folks from all round be hanging whoever in whatever they fancy. Legend has it, the ghastly tree, though it's looking quite long for this world, feeds on the blood and rot of them dangling betties. It's a damn ripe destination for those of a necro-like persuasion, and any who got themselves a strong gag reflex. Dozens of hanging cadavers might be a sight to behold, but it's sure as heck's also a stench to bemoan. Best visit on a breezy day. Each player may choose one of the following actions to resolve: loot corpses or pay respects. Now, it's important to understand everything has a consequence, so if we do things that are somewhat evil, there are much more negative consequences attached to that. So I'm going to pay my respects, and I would lose one infamy. Right now I don't have an infamy tracker in here at the moment. You start with 5, and you can go either way. So I would be at 4 now. And I'm going to add the helpful spirit. I'm still thinking of the best way to be able to find the right card quickly. Maybe put numbers on it, like big old numbers. So it's like add number 14. So that's going to be much. And I also stop some of it. Yes. I think I may have changed the names when you originally wrote these, so there may not be actually a helpful spirit. Let's go with Heavenly Hug. All right. So, note to self: I must update this name. Update. Ta-da. All right, then that would be resolved for that area. Now I want to show you guys both the Caravan and the Bayonet takeover encounters. Maybe just the Caravan today. So let's go to the Undead Yards. And then we would open the area booklet to Undead Yards. The moor ahead is littered with aimless, disgruntled ghosts. No doubt the many souls of the hanging tree's victims. There's only a small spattering of simple shrubbery for which to dart between. That is, if one is hoping to avoid any unpleasant encounters. You'd do well to avoid spooking any of the more aggressive specters, though that feat may prove difficult. So we can choose to go another way, which is not an option, as it says, if we were currently on the hanging tree, or we're at the hanging tree. You have to pass through. So you decide to try and cross the Undead Yards. Players must take turns attempting to sneak through. Each player must draw number cards 4 times. If a player is spotted, they are caught, and all players must then immediately fight a specter. After the specter is defeated, players no longer need to continue trying to sneak. So this is a pretty classic encounter from the original Grimslingers, which I always found enjoyable and fun. So I need to DNC 4 times. So number 1, you trip over a skeleton half out of the ground. The skull makes a loud crack as your foot smashes through it. You've made a noise. I need to add how many noises you can make. So typically you can make 3 noises. 3. You spot what looks to be a recently deceased denizen of the Forgotten West, frozen with a frightful expression. Clearly a victim of a disturbed specter. However, they do look to have something of value on them. Do a loot roll. Now, loot rolls are my kind of an easy way to distribute loot properly and have some good RNG in there. So I got a 4, which is not good, but I get to draw 1 common loot card. And I got Derelict Darts. Now, loot you get immediately goes into your Ether Vault. Previously I was calling this Stash, but your Ether Vault, you cannot access it except at certain places. And there's some more behind what the Ether Vault actually is and how it works in the Forgotten West, but essentially you're going to get cards. You're only going to be able to access them at certain locations. That way players aren't constantly getting stuff, changing up their deck while the other players are waiting or whatever. Like, it keeps the flow of the adventure better. But you can still be excited for what you got and be excited to be like, oh, okay, let's go to town, so, or wherever, so I can access my Ether Vault. Okay, so I still, whoopsie, need to keep going. I got a 1. So I've made a noise, so I made 2 so far. I get to make 1 more noise. 3. And I get another loot roll. Okay, cool. Oh, I found the Basilisk Eye. Sweet. That's a goodie. Alright. Oops. Alright, so I've successfully made it past the Undead Yards, which is great. And now I'm going to go over here to the Caravan. So we would go to area events section of the rulebook. On the back of these shows you what number it is in the area event section. So this is numero uno. And so you can make out a caravan in the distance, though what sort is unclear at this point. Roll 1d6 to determine the type of caravan you come across. 4. We've come across an armory caravan. So the choices are prisoner, armory, and dark door caravans. So it's 3 different types, and then there's other options within those options. So you discover it to be an armory caravan, no doubt transporting extremely valuable goods. There's a formidable throng of hired help protecting it. Something to consider when you're making your next choice. Players must choose one option as a group: ignore, overtake, or escort. So, do we want to just ignore it? We'll remove the token. Do we want to overtake it and deal with well, it's an armory caravan, so we would get the cool loot inside, or we can escort them, and they can pay us for helping them get outside of the Forgotten West. Now, escorting takes a lot longer, but it gives you better rewards, and it keeps your infamy high. So when you have to escort, I'll just say, you then have to take the caravan to the edge of the map somewhere. So I might change that up to be like, do an area event roll and then just take it to, wherever it is. That way it's a little more random. But right now the easiest way is you just would have to take it to the edge of the map. And I'm still, obviously play testing. So let's overtake it, which I'll probably die, but we'll see. Well, I guess you don't really die too much, but whether or not I succeed will determine what happens. Obviously, you decide to try and overtake the caravan and steal whatever it is that's being transported. Remove the caravan token from the map. Players must immediately combat bayonets with the armed and experienced. So, first we draw bayonets. Players must immediately discard their weapon attack card. Their common weapon attack card, which is this one. Now, other things that have changed since I last showed this is there's no longer the combat deck and instant access deck. It's just one deck that you draw from randomly. That deck can be, I'm experimenting with the max size. Right now it's 20 cards. So you have your 4 weapon attacks, 6 elements, and then 10 other cards you can customize. I might increase that. But I'm still seeing how much is too much for players right now. So I get rid of my weapon attack there. And then we're getting it has the throng multiplier, throng, and armed and experienced. Oh, throwing combat against this creature is 8 rounds. So combat's normally 2 rounds for basic encounter. The throng, so I'm fighting multiple people. So this puts it up to 8 rounds. Armed experienced is if I lose a round, I gain 2 wounds instead of 1. Again, wounds are kind of your... the more wounds you get, the more difficult it is to win combat and stuff. So, yes. Let's just do a few rounds. I'm not going to do the full 8 rounds. That's a pretty sizable fight. Although rounds are only... they're not that long. So, what you do is you draw this creature... creatures and players get the ability to play 3 cards per round. Sometimes that changes. And let's change this. Change color. Boop. Stop it. I just wanted to get my name out of there. So I draw my 6 cards. So I got my legendary weapon attack. Wind is actually really good. So these are my 6 cards I have to work with. Okay, so the fake out. Natural light. A card can only be played at random across from this card. If the player wants to play a card across from this one, it cannot be the last combat slot to be filled. So I'd have to shuffle and randomly draw one. +2 power to any of the creatures cards adjacent to this one. Oh, I want to flip that one. If a player plays a card across from this one, they must immediately discard 2 cards from their hand. Wow, it's not very nice. So this one I want to get rid of because it's 1, and then this is giving it +2 and +2. So this is 5, 6, 10. I don't think I have the ability to flip it, though. So I have to try and get... oh, okay. So a wind is going to let me rearrange this. I'm going to go in Pack and Hate. So this is, my weapon right now does +4 power. So it's going to be 3 +4 power for 7. So I just need to tie the creature, so I win ties. Those are useless. This is 2. I guess I'm going to want to play this here. Bottomless whiskey there. Maybe that's... oh, and I have to play a card randomly there. Okay, win, so that's me. Oh, I can't do that. Alright, I has plan. Perfect. Alright, now wind lets me rearrange their cards, so I want to make sure this one... oh, when I play a card from there, I have to discard 2 random cards. No! No! Uh-oh. That's unfortunate. So this is 1, 5. This +2 is 7. So I probably didn't need to play the whiskey, actually. My bad. So this is 3 + 4 is 7, so I've already beat them there, but +8 from the whiskey, or +1 from the whiskey, so 8. And then this gets 1 + 1, so 10. So I overplayed, but by 2, good. So I beat. That would be 1 round of combat. These cards get discarded. We're just going to do 2 rounds of combat just cause. So then I also upgraded the Fate deck a considerable amount. So now it's, before it was just basic stuff, but now there's some pretty hefty events that happen. So you draw from the Fate deck in between each combat round, and it's stuff that affects all players. And you have to make choices sometimes as a group and stuff like that. So, the strained elemental energies about you have caused a torrential downpour. One player whose water has not been discarded may choose to use their elemental abilities to summon the rain to themselves. If they do so, they must put this card in their character space, as well as their water, into play and gain +5 power. Discard this card at the end of the round. So one person can choose to summon the rain over to themselves. If no player chooses to do this, all players lose 3 energy. So one person gets to pick. This one's a pretty nice one, actually. As long as somebody has water. So what I would do is I would have to take my water out, because I haven't played it. I would have to put it into play. I take this card. I can just put it in my character space. This is giving me +5. So I'm already starting off with +7. Oops. There's no particular reason I did it that way. Alright. So I think I've already won. This card directly, the card directly to the left of the swing gets ×3 power. That one's in a bad spot. The creature's cards adjacent to this one cannot be flipped or discarded. If the card across from this one forces this card to be flipped, flip the card across as well. So they have 6, and I've already got 7, so I win. Yay! I would discard that fake card, and that. And then that would be a round. So if I manage to defeat it, what happens? I get to do. I would. Oh, if I'm overtaking it, I gain 6 infamy, so I become very evil for overtaking it. I get to add the assassin squad. So the people who own the content of this armored caravan are very mad, and they would send the assassin squad after me, which the assassin squad is part of some unique this isn't it, but it's part of a unique fate deck where if you resolve this fate, then you have to add the next level up. So they send a bounty hunter, you defeat them, okay, now they're going to send a hardened hunter. If you defeat them, okay, now they're going to send a whole assassin squad after you. So it's kind of like a linked events in those fate cards, which I think is really fun. So if I defeat all the bandits, each player may do 3 loot rolls, getting a +3 to each outcome. So I get to get 3 items from this, and I get a +3 to my roll, which the better you roll, a 20. So when you get a 20, in this area, in other areas, the loot rolls are different. I get to do an advanced loot roll on that one. So 14. The advanced, so I get 3 rare cards. So that was really good. If I get a 19 or 20, I get legendary cards. I just don't want it to be too easy for you to get legendaries, because there's a lot of content to play through with just the common deck, but it's exciting to be able to get really good stuff on rare occasions. In this area, the next area obviously has better chances of getting legendaries and then even mythical items. So, yeah, that's some of the adventure and showing you kind of the flow of how things work. Obviously, the campaign plays a big role in this, but even just adventuring to level up your character and your deck. I don't have the rare loot deck in here right now. I just have the common. And the reason is I want to make sure that how those cards function is tested, because the rare cards are all based off of the common cards. They're just better versions. So I don't want to have to change 100 cards if I find some sort of mechanic that's not working properly. Anyway, yeah, I'm still testing, obviously, difficulty. The game is more slanted towards rewarding you for effort as opposed to being really punishing. So if I feel an activity takes you 30 minutes to do, there's not really a lose situation generally. It's whether or not you're gaining wounds, and it's more about the story, adventure, and the having fun solving the puzzles in combat. It's not so much about like defeat is constantly looming over you. Now, for some activities, yes, like the Abandoned Warlight Fortress, the Immortal Kingdom of Gribo, some of the stuff you do at Chompy's Yard, there are those high stakes moments, but otherwise, it's generally if I feel like a player invests 30 minutes into something, that I'm not going to let that time investment go to waste. Which I know in some games, players feel like, well, even if I lost, I learned how to do it better next time. I still find that can feel really bad. If you spend an hour trying to do something and then all your progress is wiped away, I don't like that. So generally, you're always progressing and improving your deck, and it's more about putting the time in to go around, have a fun adventure, and improve so that you can, get past those more challenging win or lose situations. So, like, if I did 8 rounds of combat and I lost all 8, or if you lose more than you win, you obviously don't get the reward in some situations. And the more you lose, the more wounds you get. Also, the more rounds you win, the higher your loot roll is. So if I do 8 rounds of combat, I get a +1 to my loot roll for every round I win. Now I'm still messing with this because I don't want to make it too easy. But that way, players are always rewarded for performing well. Because when you're doing multiple players at one time, um, you are going to kill. You're going to overtake the caravan. But depending on how you performed is going to determine how good the loot is you get. So one player might win 8 rounds, another player only wins 2. The player who only won 2 is going to have a much worse loot roll than that won all 8. So you're always rewarded for your performance and punished for your performance. And again, I'm still tweaking that, but the general philosophy is there's not really a lose. You don't really lose combat. It's how much you're rewarded or punished for your performance in combat. So I think it also helps promote players from going and exploring without being like afraid to take risks and stuff like that. Anyway, okay, so that's a good amount to show some of the updates and how things have changed. I do want to talk a bit more about the Fate deck. Before, it was a lot of this stuff where nothing really happened, but now it's like Furious Tornado and Pickpockets, and these all come with interesting choices they can make. Players can make. So, like, your animal malfunction is starting to malfunction. Do you want to smack it or do you want to press some buttons? And then that has different outcomes. So it's a lot about making cool choices. Slow-mo strays, that one's interesting. Elemental Guardian. Haggard Hag. An Earthquake. So some of them let players take on something negative so it doesn't affect all the others. Like the Electrical Storm. I can choose to summon all the electricity to myself, like I did with the Torrential Downpour, which is going to give me wounds, but increase my power. And if I don't, then all the other players might get wounds. So I think there's some really cool choices in the Fate deck, and to make combat a little spicy and to make things, very replayable. Yeah. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, hope you feel excited about how this is going. It feels very Grimslingery to me, how Grimslingers 1 played out, but with not complicated rules and much more straightforward stuff and more well thought out stuff. Again, if you feel like you would like to playtest with me on Tabletop Simulator, I'd love for you to contact me. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.